I think Tatum was the best player on the court last night. Even from three, he wasn't on from three, but I thought he took over in that second half of that game. There was that streak where he had 10 straight points. But you could make a case that he could have been an MVP. But I think it's better that Brown won it because I think he needs the affirmation that he's at that level. And I know he's making a lot of money and Tatum's going to get the Supermax. But I think last night showed, and I said it earlier, that the individual awards are so much fewer than what you accomplish as a team. I even go back to the Brady years where he was unanimous MVP, 14-2, but you didn't win the damn Super Bowl. So what does that mean? But I think for that league, for those guys, Tatum knows he's a top 5 guy, top 10 guy, whatever you want to call it. Brown got snubbed a lot this year, but Eastern Conference Finals MVP, gets the Finals MVP. He's got all the awards and accolades, but they played together, and I think they learned to play together as a team. And that's the biggest thing you take away from this.
The votes went 7-4 for Brown. So I was hoping for a 6-5. Turns out it was 7-4. The votes for Tatum came from Doris Burke.
Of course.
PJ Carlissimo. Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe. And who was the fourth? And Malika Andrews of ESPN. Those 4 gave their votes to Jayson Tatum. The other votes went to Brown from Sam Amick of The Athletic and Tim Bontemps of ESPN, Mike Curtis of the Dallas Morning News, Vince Goodwill from Yahoo, Sean Powell of NBA.com, and Simone Sandri from Italy, international representative in the voting.
All right.
That's from La Gazzetta dello Sport in Italy.
A lot of scoops there.
Got a vote. A lot of scoops. And Jeff Zilgett of USA Today gave his vote to Brown. Those were the Brown votes. So 11 votes for the NBA MVP of the finals. The final tally was 7-4 for Jaylen Brown. You know what I say to that? He can have it. He can have it because the guy who will gain the most from this win is not Jaylen Brown. It's Jayson Tatum.
Yeah.
He had the most to gain in this. And I know that you will say, well, Brown is closing the gap. And you'd be right to say that he's closing the gap between Tatum and Brown. That's a good thing. It's a good thing for him. It's a good thing for the Celtics.
Yeah, they're both elevated. No doubt about it.
Tatum did not play poorly in this series. Tatum played great in this series. He absolutely did and was worthy of the votes that he got for MVP. But Brown was the guy who made big-time plays and big-time shots when this series shifted and was won, and that was not last night. The series was not won last night. Tatum was the best player on the court to close it out, but we were talking about this yesterday. Do you get full credit for that, for playing great in a closeout game when you're up 3-1 and you totally just quit on Game 4?
Yeah, I think you do.
I don't think you do. But I don't think you, and honestly, I don't think you should. I don't think there's a lot of credit to be given for last night. Was he great? Yes, he has the ability to be great. We knew that about him.
Yeah, but he wasn't like all world throughout this series. And I think that's the biggest thing. He struggled shooting from the 3. Like he really didn't have his shot.
Even last night, yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't have his shot the entire playoffs.
No, just didn't happen.
Which leads me down another road that we're going to get sidetracked on here. And I don't want to get too far down this because we're going to have more time to talk about it this week. And that is, should Jayson Tatum go to the Olympics? Should Jayson Tatum be playing in the Olympics? What's wrong with Jayson Tatum physically? Is there an issue there? Right? We know that he put off and had all those medical opinions on the wrist prior to the year, and he was able to play from the jump because he did not elect to go with anything that was surgical, and he said, I'm good, and they said, I don't need surgery. I don't know. I watch him, and I think, is he hurt? And is the wrist an issue for him? And could there be something going on there?
No, I think in other years, like you could tell that the wrist was bugging him.
I think it's bugging him now. It would explain why the shot has been off. And he obviously was stroking it at times last night. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. Tatum had the most to gain with them winning a title. He did, because he's the face of the team.
Yeah.
He's one of the faces of the league. And the knock was never on Jaylen Brown. You know, we say, oh, it took them 7 years together and they got over the hump. Who are you really talking about when you're talking about getting over the hump?
Tatum.
You're talking about Tatum. You're not talking about Brown. We've talked about this with Brown. When Brown's great, he gets all this credit. When Brown sucks, everyone says, yeah, well, he's Brown. He's not Tatum. Tatum has an off night, he gets crushed. And so the whole getting over the hump conversation is really about Jayson Tatum and less about Jaylen Brown. And that's why last night, when Jayson Tatum came to the podium and said, I've had to listen to all the bleep that people have said about me, he had the most to gain with the win. You talk about guys getting stamped. That's a guy who got stamped last night.
Yeah, I
winner. I came in today, I looked at Tim McKone, and I said, Tim McKone, what did I say? Jayson Tatum, champion. That's what I said.
It's his David Price moment. But, he's not Price. Price was a jerk about it. I hold all the cards now. Tatum's a good guy. And I think he's answered all the questions. You listen to all his press conferences after games throughout all the playoff series. He's been the consummate pro. And for you to go out and not be all world,
yeah.
But how good is this team really? If they were all at the top of their game, how many games would they lose? They don't lose many games. This team's that damn good. You could go out and have your best player struggle at times, and he did struggle, but he helped will that team to victory. He did. You could say Brown was the most steady, consistent player. Tatum was consistent too in a different way. They're you mentioned it too. They're different players. One guy has, you could tell, is pure talent. The other guy's got all the energy, and he sort of sets the tone.
And with the win, all those stats that you've thrown out or heard about Tatum over the years, right? The company he keeps when it comes to his statistics at his age. You're throwing out names like Kobe Bryant and Larry Bird and all these guys that have rings. Well, now Tatum has his own, which validates all the things you can say about before his 27th birthday, Jayson Tatum had scored more points than anyone else, and with the 31 last night, he passed Kobe Bryant. He's ahead of Kobe Bryant and LeBron James.
That's good company.
And he's top 10 in just about every other offensive category. I think one of the categories he's not top 10 in was blocks. He's 13th in blocks before the age of 27 in the playoffs. But top 10 in assists. He's number 1 in points. He's number 1 in threes. He is up there. His assist numbers are great. Everything about him statistically now kind of has this validation to it of, and then he won his first title at 27.
Yeah, it's emphatic. It validates everything for him, and it's something that I think he needed. And it's something that's going to carry him as you move forward here. And you could go back and you could look at Luka and all his triple-doubles. It didn't feel like triple-doubles when you watch him play. We know he could score. Never felt like he could rebound. Never felt like he could really, get to the 10 assists per game. But Tatum's more dynamic. He's a more dynamic player. And this will carry him now. Put him on duck boat 1 now. I said duck boat 3. Put him on duck boat 1.
It just changes the whole perception of him and this team moving forward, right?
Organizational, yeah.
The way that you view this group moving forward, the way that you view both Jaylen and Jayson Tatum moving forward is completely flipped. And so now you actually have two guys that, again, have that championship pedigree and are just entering the primes of their career. It's a great spot to be in if you're the Boston Celtics. I would have gone Tatum, by the way, for MVP after last night. I was Jaylen Brown after Game 3, but when you look at what Tatum did in that first half of that Game 3 to kind of carry them offensively, and then I thought he was awesome last night. I know he didn't shoot it well from 3, but I thought Tatum was involved in a ton to get you over the hump. And look, it wound up being a blowout, and the Pritchard 3 kind of sealed things for the Celtics last night, but I thought Tatum was great.
Do you think he deserved do you think he felt he deserved the MVP?
I'm sure there was some disappointment there.
A little bit. Because it is important to him. The individual stuff is, but maybe this is the game changer for him. Now you won as a team. I don't have to be that guy. I don't have to be number 1.
He gets no credit for what he did in Game 2 because he wasn't scoring.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he didn't get more votes. People don't want to give him credit for his Game 2 performance.
Yeah, I mean, there were points where it was either Brown or Holiday, too. And he was the third choice as potential MVP. So, but I think what he's done here over the last 2 games, that's
the time. I mean, listen, you don't dominate and kick the crap out of a team in the finals without everybody playing well.
Yeah.
Who didn't play well for the Celtics in this series? Who do you look at and say, they really didn't play well?
Especially last night.
I mean, how far down the list do you have to go to find someone that you feel somewhat disappointed in? If there's one guy that you're thinking about, you're down the bottom of the roster. You're talking Pritchard. You're talking, I wish Pritchard had shot better in the series. Whoa, okay. That's how far you got to
I
go.
don't know. Your seventh man had two major two major plays in this series.
Yet he's dropping half-court threes. That one last night was unbelievable. That was unbelievable. It was great. So even a guy who you're like, he could have shot a little better. You're like, but he made monster plays.
Yeah. No, his defense too. Like the energy he brought early in the series too to get on Kyrie, get in his grill. I think it was better defensively than he was offensively. Now, granted, he didn't take as many shots, but he gave you great minutes. He really did. Even Hauser.
Hauser was huge last night.
Hauser was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to go down the list. I mean, Tillman?
Yes. Xavier Tillman.
Yeah, they got to figure out that Xavier Tillman spot.
It's not even fair. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And it's just, they had a great series. They made the Mavs look silly. They made it look ridiculous that they'd even made it here, is what they made it look like.
I mean, there are times you're like, how the hell did this team come out of the West? Like they caught some breaks, but this would have been a better series if it was Denver, if it was Oklahoma City, even if it was Minnesota.
What an uneventful championship run. Yeah. Uneventful.
It was easy. It was easy for this team.
Which is kind of unfortunate when you're such a dominant team, when you're so good.
Yeah.
When you can't screw it up for yourself and then have this miraculous comeback.
Right? Yeah, I mean,
think of Super Bowl 51 to make a football comparison.
Thank you.
What an amazing win. What an amazing game. Or Super Bowl 49 against the Seahawks. Yeah, amazing. What did you have to do? What position did you have to put yourself in to have it be so memorable? Oh, we had to be absolutely terrible for half the game. Oh,
Or no, those runs too, where you're down 14 twice to Baltimore at home, coming back from that, and then you win the whole damn thing. That's when it's more gratifying. Yeah,
it's a bizarre sports thing, man. That you look at this and you say it's just so quiet and uneventful because they kicked everyone's ass. That's what happened right up until the very end.
They came out last night and stepped on their throat too.
Yeah,
they stepped on the gas in that second quarter
because they wanted to win. It was game 5 at home, and then they decided they wanted to win.
And Kyrie can't play in Boston.
They punted on game 4. They did. They punted on it. They knew it. I'm more convinced of it today than I was yesterday and the day before. They absolutely passed on winning it down there. They took a hard pass. Parade on Friday. If you like that clip, check out more videos from Zolak and Bertrand here. For more Celtics analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.